The Christmas season is in full swing, which for most of us means a never-ending pile of work. Last-minute projects to finish before the new year, coordinating travel and celebration plans, and of course, mentally preparing for the inevitable encounter with that one family member. You know who I'm talking about. And I myself, particularly being busy this time of year, thought that I would probably not have the time to do too many reviews this month, other than some notable ones, of course. But lo and behold, I was presented with a surprise early gift this season. As I happened to be checking my local theater showings, I came across a movie I hadn't heard anything about. And I'm not sure what possessed me to go see this film. Maybe it was my exhausted brain after working a straight 22-hour shift. And no, I'm not joking. Or maybe the madness is just finally settling in. One can only hope. But regardless, I stumbled my way into the movie theaters and saw The Order. And it was fantastic. In fact, it was so good, I am right now spending time I don't have just to tell you how good this movie is. The Order is a thrilling crime drama based upon real events that took place in the 1980s. And everything in this movie is so well crafted. From the pacing, dialogue, character building, cinematography, the acting, you name it. Every aspect of filmmaking is executed at such a high level. I haven't seen a movie done this well in what seems like well over a decade now. This movie feels like a 90s or early 2000s film, when we relied more on character-driven narratives that were lean and concise, that could tell a fully completed story and not take over 3 hours to do it. I can't wait for part 2. The Order is probably the best movie I've seen this year. So, for my highbrow critic score, I give The Order a 9 out of 10. And for my schmo score, the score for the average Joe Schmo, I give it an 8 out of 10. Now, for this review, I'm going to do my best to be very vague to avoid as many spoilers as possible. That being said, if you would like to see The Order completely spoiler-free, which I highly recommend, this is where we part ways. Thanks for dropping by, and I want you to have a nice day. Now, before I start, as I mentioned, this movie is based on real events. And because of that, I'm going to have to use words that are on YouTube's no-no list. So, if during this video you hear my voice cut out or get bleeped, just know it's because if I don't do this, YouTube will suppress or just straight up blacklist my video. So, The Order follows the story of Terry Husk, a well-seasoned FBI agent who is reassigned to a vacant FBI post in Idaho to live out his last days in peace before retirement. Unfortunately, all is not what it seems in the quiet, peaceful town. Terry, being known for busting big crime syndicates and large white supremacist groups, quickly catches wind of a series of bank robberies, bombings, and counterfeit operations taking place in the Pacific Northwest, piecing together the clues that this may be the work of a single neo-Nazi terrorist group with bigger plans. Can Terry solve the mystery and put a stop to it before it's too late? Watch and find out. Now, I say that, but if you know your history, you know how this story ends. Obviously, things were changed in the film due to time constraints, and a bit of drama was added for flair, but all in all, I think it was a good adaptation of the overarching events that took place over several years, focusing on the Order's, or the Silent Brotherhood's, biggest moments, their biggest heists, assassinations, and how they were completely inspired to do these things by reading the Turner Diaries, an infamous white supremacist propaganda book that is nowadays illegal to own in many countries, and if you go looking to buy one in the US, you will definitely be put on a watch list. But like I said, if you know the history, you know the main events of this story. So for this review, I'm going to focus on some of the highlights and what I feel worked in this film, and why I think this film is better than another film I reviewed with similar themes and directions. Firstly, the acting in this movie is amazing. Jude Law really brings his A-game to this one, playing the weathered, broken down man at the end of his career who has given everything to the job, and yet still can't seem to stop. Nicholas Hoult does great as the charismatic cult leader that tries to always come off as calm and calculative, but can't hide that subtle undertone of rage and violence that makes every scene he's in so tense. Of course, having good dialogue always helps, which brings us to the real star of this movie, the writing. Not only was it able to introduce and fully flesh out its main characters with poignant, witty dialogue, but it also told a completed story covering a series of events that took place over several years, all in under 2 hours, which flew by because the pacing was so good. The script constantly has the audience flipping between 3 states of being. 1, being drawn in by the mystery unraveling before them. 2, being caught up in suspense as you know something serious is about to happen. And 3, full-blown action, with every moment in between being filled with character development. All of this being wrapped up in a nice, concise narrative with no wasted time or fluff. This is how you write a screenplay for a film. Lastly, I want to talk about an element in this movie that works by comparing it to another similar movie I saw earlier this year, The Bike Riders. Both films are based on real events, and both are really good movies. However, as a film, I would say The Order is better than The Bike Riders, solely because it feels like a completed story with a satisfactory ending. The Order and The Bike Riders both follow a standard plot structure. However, I believe the climax for The Bike Riders was not big enough to be considered a climax, which is why a lot of people who saw The Bike Riders felt that the movie just kind of ends out of nowhere, showing that the audience did not recognize the climactic moment as the climax, leaving them blindsided when the movie ends because they were still waiting for the climax, not realizing it had already passed. Like I said, The Bike Riders' climax was not big enough or satisfactory enough to justify the time spent leading up to it. And granted, the story was constrained by the fact that it was portraying actual events. But I mean, The Bike Riders already changed a lot of things from the real story for the sake of the narrative, so why not just change a little bit more for the sake of a completed story? That's all I'm saying. Both movies are good, but I feel The Order was willing to change a little bit more to make the story feel more satisfactory to the audience. Because at the end of the day, it is a movie, and part of filmmaking is trying to give the audience the best possible experience you can for their money. And on that note, I feel The Order is well worth the price of admission. If you want to see a good, solid movie that won't waste your time, go see The Order. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Anyways, thanks for showing up. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you at the next one.